how do you know what the best budget parts are to buy for a budget gaming PC? There's a lot of guides on the internet, and there's a lot of different parts to choose from. And I'm going to tell you right up front, guys, I'm not going to tell you what the best RAM or power supply or case or a lot of those other miscellaneous parts are going to be. We're going to focus on two parts, and arguably and easily proven the most important components that you're going to pick for your budget gaming PC is going to be your processor and your graphics card. Now, when you get to these two parts, the question you got to ask is, well, which one's more important, the processor or the graphics card? Now, I'm going to assume that a lot of you out there, like probably the majority of you, are mostly looking for just raw gaming. You want a decent gaming machine at a decent price. And so if that's the case, there is only one answer. The most important part, bar none, is the graphics card. End of discussion, period. And yet, I see a lot of guides that, a lot of just budget building guides that make one super critical error. They put way too much money into the processor. So I've seen a lot of guides where they will, recommend, and I'm not trying to pick on like other hardware channels because these are some super smart guys, and I don't want this to sound like they're all just dumb and I just know better, and no, not even. Okay, there's so many things that I have catching up to do, and I will probably never catch up just due to my size and time. But I do think this one area is really important because, guys, you got to get the most out of your money, and I have proof this time. The graphics card is super important, and a lot of guides say, hey, you know what, throw in a Ryzen 5 or a Core i5 CPU. Now, back in the day, it probably made sense to do like a Core i5 because, the i3s, they were only dual core chips with multi-threading. So you only had 4 threads total to deal with. And then, the Core i5, even though it was only 4 cores and 4 threads, it at least had 4 total solid cores, which is better than 2 cores, even with hyper-threading. However, even in that case, I still think an i3 would have been a better decision if you are looking to spend $1,000 or less. Right here, guys, we've got a 3600, 3600X, and now we've got the 10th gen i5 that has 6 cores and 12 threads. That sounds awesome. It's also around $200 to get one of those mid-range CPUs. And for $100, you can get something like a 3100, a 3300X, or the 10th gen i3. Guys, there's no two ways about it. If you can save that $100, give or take, and put it into the graphics card, you are going to do 500 times better. And I say 500 times, not literally. We'll get there in a second. But you're going to do a lot better for your gaming performance than trying to get a hexa-core CPU and then having to get something cheaper. So a lot of these guides that I'm seeing, they're telling you to get like a Ryzen 5 or, the Core i5, and they're recommending the RX 580 or the RX 570. Now those are decent cards, and for the price, they're impossible to argue with. I mean, if you only have $150 to spend on a graphics card, then yeah, those two cards are they're awesome. However, if you're buying the processor and the card, and you're thinking, well, I'm going to spend $200 on my processor, Spend $100 on your processor and up the graphics card to something like the 5600 XT. Let's go to it, guys. Right here, right now, here's the results. Look at this performance. Now, it was pretty easy for me to test this. All I had to do was just disable 2 cores. So while it's not as accurate as having an actual 3100 or an actual 3300X, I was going to mess with the clocks, but my Gigabyte board was not being very friendly with me to mess with like turbo and base clocks. So I figured, you know what? If the difference is only going to be within a few percentage points anyway, and the big picture is what matters. As you can see, in some games, like Spyro Reignited,
it's possible that a quad core is going to give you better performance with a 5600 XT than even a hexacore at the 5600 XT, because less cores usually mean better boosting. And with a game that really focuses on single thread, then the better the boost, the better the performance. And so in some rare occasions, but Spyro wasn't a very super consistent game, so I don't want to put a lot of results, a lot of emphasis on that. But in games like pretty much any other title was basically neck and neck. In fact, sometimes you would see the minimums improve a little bit, even though the average would drop a little bit. Most of the time, if you saw any difference, it would just be within margin of error, showing that a quad core with a 5600 XT is going to give you a ton more gaming performance than a 6-core processor with an RX 580. And yet, cost-wise, they're pretty close to the same. And that is exactly what I wanted to prove. I only found one game, well, 2 titles where I saw a significant loss of performance with going from 6 cores to 4 cores. And that was Borderlands 3. And, Borderlands 3 actually takes advantage of multi-core, so it does better. And then the other one which surprised me was Fortnite. But that might be related to some of the online stuff, although World of Warcraft didn't have any kind of issue like that, and it's also an online game. So as you can see, guys, it's going to depend on the games, but still, even with Fortnite taking a pretty massive hit to performance, it still was a ton more than the RX 580 with the hexacore. So guys, I feel like that does it right there. If you're going to do a budget gaming build for under $1,000, just get one of the Ryzen 3s or one of the new Core i3s, because as long as you've got 4 cores and 8 threads, you're going to do fine for gaming. And I have a feeling if you're gaming at that budget, you're probably not gaming at above 1080p anyways. So put your money in the graphics card first and get a $100 processor. You will love it. Also, Jay's 2 cents showed that even if you are going to dabble in some streaming, the Ryzen 3s were handling it just fine. So you don't need to put all the money in the processor. Put the money in the graphics card. This is RX 580. I've got the 5600 XT in my bench, and because I was working on it anyway, I wanted to do this video so bad because I was like, I can prove it. I can prove it, and I just did. So guys, I hope this helps you out. Get your good graphics card, put your money there, you won't regret it. If you are doing like full video editing or something, yeah, that will probably change how you approach that. But for gaming specific and emphasized rigs, go for one of the cheap processors. It will help you out in the long run. Guys, tell me what you think about this video in the comments. I'm hoping that I'm helping you out, so I would love to hear some feedback from you guys, and that would be awesome. I will catch you later.